Formula One could get a blockbuster new all-American team after Andretti's stunning revelation it will work with General Motors to bid for a new entry run under the Cadillac banner. The FIA will soon begin a formal process to assess potential new teams that would most likely join the F1 grid in 2026. There's no guarantee that the Andretti-Cadillac alliance will end in an entry being granted, but as we'll explain in this video, it has potentially transformed a punchy yet often dismissed F1 aspirant into a star candidate. An Andretti-run Cadillac team would be both General Motors and the Cadillac brand's first forays into F1. The collaboration between one of the biggest racing teams in the United States and the country's biggest car company has been announced in the wake of the FIA's indication earlier this week that it wants to consider expanding the F1 grid. So unsurprisingly, FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem was very fast to welcome the news. Andretti and General Motors have been in discussion for several months and have fleshed out several parts of their planned F1 project in anticipation of making a formal application. The main headquarters will be the new facility Andretti is building in Indiana, staff are already being recruited, and an unnamed technical director has been appointed as well. Aerodynamic and engine development support will be available from General Motors facilities in the US, and the team will unsurprisingly have a satellite UK base too. An engine partnership with an experienced F1 manufacturer has been agreed to begin with, although the identity of the supplier hasn't been disclosed. Previously, Andretti had lined up a Renault engine deal when it was chasing its own standalone project. This is presumably still a candidate supplier, although when asked specifically about whether Honda could be an option, neither Michael Andretti nor General Motors president Mark Reuss ruled out the Japanese manufacturer. If successful in getting an entry, the team intends to run an American driver as soon as it can, with Andretti's IndyCar race winner Colton Herta the leading candidate. F1's response to all this was just to stress that there are other interested parties and that there is a formal process to go through with a need to ensure the championship remains credible and stable. It sounds a little bit like pouring cold water on the Andretti-Cadillac idea, which would be in keeping with several stakeholders exhibiting a frosty attitude towards Michael Andretti over the last 12 months. But the fact is, Andretti's not just the most vocal interested party anymore, it's produced a massive partner to join its bid and made a serious statement of intent. That's significant because if you watched our recent video explaining the FIA's interest in starting the process to find a new F1 team, you'll probably remember what we said about Andretti. This looked like the chance Andretti had been waiting for, and we said it was time to put up or shut up. And we're happy to acknowledge that's exactly what's happened, and a bit more, because nobody expected this bombshell, which is a game changer for Andretti. While we didn't think Andretti was undeserving of being let into F1, we were in the camp that wanted to see some tangible proof of how serious its intentions were, as there had been a lot of talk and now finally it could be met with serious action. The fact that Andretti's advances were rebuffed for so long by senior figures in F1 carried an unspoken implication that it was perceived as a risk of being some combination of uncompetitive, lacking the funds required to be a serious project, or uncommitted if things didn't go well. Throw in the fact that F1 was known to be keen on an automotive manufacturer joining the grid, and you have your reasons for why Andretti seemed to be struggling to make any meaningful progress. F1's collective attitude to Andretti was basically, you're a bit underwhelming, come back if you find something we can care about. Well, Andretti has done exactly that. In fact, what it's put together is a pretty stunning answer to prior skepticism. And all credit to Michael Andretti for evolving the concept and pulling together a much more convincing project in this revised form. For he not only recognised the resistance from those in F1, but was willing to take action to counter it. He reckons he'd have absolutely continued to face pushback otherwise, and looked very pleased with himself when he told media, including us, that one of the big things was, what does Andretti bring to the party? Well, we're bringing one of the biggest manufacturers in the world now with General Motors and Cadillac. Andretti said a manufacturer partnership was the one box we didn't have checked that we do have checked now. And it is certainly difficult to see how holes could be picked in this kind of project compared to before, where this was envisaged as Andretti Global and the idea existed in a more abstract form. Now the merits are more compelling across the board. The respective racing backgrounds of Andretti Autosport and Cadillac, their likely vast collective resources, the sponsorship portfolio they will almost certainly command, and the commitment of a parent company like General Motors. Of course, there's no guarantee this ends in an ultra successful F1 team, but that's not the project's aim right now. The short-term goal is just to win a seat at the table. In terms of achieving that, the significance of General Motors and Cadillac being involved shouldn't be underestimated. It lifts the Andretti project from another independent customer team to one with out-and-out works team potential. Michael Andretti even claims that GM has capabilities on the level with any F1 team out there. They've not ruled out building an engine of their own in the future, and Royce has pledged General Motors' vast engineering resources will bring proven success and invaluable contributions to this partnership. The tie-up also lends itself to a clear strategy of being an all-American F1 team, which Andretti bullishly claims will be the biggest story of the year. And F1 will be interested in how this could accelerate its impressive growth in the US even further. Championship bosses may have been wary of Andretti before, but will surely be delighted with the prospect of another American team on the grid after Haas, especially with a major brand like Cadillac and company like General Motors. It's F1's boom in the US that has made this possible. General Motors is prioritising the growth of Cadillac into a global brand, and tapping into the exposure offered by F1 will become a key part of that strategy. General Motors have eyed F1 for a few years, but the conditions have never been right for an entry, and it wasn't even actively pursuing it now. Andretti drove the discussions. But the timing seems right, so it's just now a question of opportunity. Andretti put it plainly when he said he's 1000% sure that this partnership has a serious chance of getting onto the grid, and he is very confident that it will happen. And if such a powerful combination as this can't land an entry, you'd have to wonder what could.